I tend to listen to quite a lot of music when I work. If I know that I've got a deadline to meet, then I crank it up into high gear. And I do listen to drum and bass music. My name is Julie Francois Campbell, but in the industry I'm known as Jay. I actually started tailoring in its small components from the age of 7. So I'm a third generation tailor. My father was a theatrical tailor, because there is a difference between a bespoke tailor and a theatrical tailor. And my great uncle was a tailor. So I started helping my father when I was 7 years old. And then my father found that I had an aptitude for it. And the next thing I knew, I was being flung all sorts of bits and pieces of tailored garments. I thought he'd get into trouble when my mum found out. But when she found out, she was like, oh, I didn't know Jay could sew. And the next thing I knew, she had me doing bits as well. So between the two of them, I didn't have a chance. A tailor constructs a garment from cut pieces of fabric which has been given to them. A cutter is a person who's given a set of designs and also a set of measurements for the particular people who are going to be wearing the garment, and they've got to make a workable pattern which they then use to cut the fabric out. The difference is that the cutter is the person who creates the actual pattern for the tailor. I have a folder for each production. There's currently about 9 which I have at the moment in rotation. I use those folders to decipher the measurements and the designs, and I use a lot of pencils. I use a lot of rubbers. I get through, you would not believe how many rubbers I get through. And I use several sets of scissors. And I also have a huge amount of tape measures. I've got long tape measures, short tape measures, extra long tape measures in various colours. So it's quite ridiculous how many I have actually. I need to do something about that. I tend to listen to quite a lot of music when I work. So when I'm doing paperwork, I tend to listen to classical music. If I'm actually cutting patterns, then I need to be on my feet and moving around. So I tend to listen to probably a little bit of radio. And also, if I know that I've got a deadline to meet, if I've got fittings that I need to do, then I crank it up into high gear. And I do listen to drum and bass music, so I move around quite quickly. It's quite strange and quite interesting to watch me when I'm in high gear. But I have to be like that in order to keep to time with whatever I need to do. So the best thing to do is listen to drum and bass at the time. I was inspired first and foremost by my father, because he used to bring home the craziest garments you'd ever seen, and he'd leave them on the dining room table, and as a child I'd look at it and think, what in heaven's name is that? Whatever it is, it's really interesting, I want to know more. So that was an inspiration to me, because back then you didn't see people doing those kind of jobs. You know, people were bus drivers, secretaries, you know, all that sort of thing. For someone to be in the arts on my street was a bit of an anomaly. We were the strange family on the high street. So that gave me an insight into the fact that things don't have to be, you know, the way everybody else is. It could be different. But also I have been inspired by people like Vivienne Westwood and Alexander McQueen, because they look at things in a completely different way to everybody else. And that's how I see garments. I don't see just the garment. I see the story behind the garment, what the fabric's made of, where they got the inspiration from, how they're going to make that garment look different to everyone else's, how it's printed, how it's stitched. You know, so again, that's a great inspiration to me. My favourite item is Selim's coat in Il Turco. At the last minute we had changes of principle. Now they were completely different sizes and different heights. So the challenge was to get the coat to fit the second person, even though there wasn't enough fabric. So there was some feat of engineering that was going on there. And we managed to pull it off actually. But the coat, if anyone sees it, the green coat is absolutely stunning.